Hey friends, I'm Jess Connolly. I'm an author, a coach, a Bible teacher, and a local church leader, and I love talking to real people who know what it means to have full lives, but also want to walk in abundance. This podcast is for you. It's not my podcast, it's ours. It's for people who crave lighthearted conversations and deeply spiritual truth. It's for people who are busy, tired, waiting, growing, dreaming, working, or praying about what's next. Wherever you're listening from, if it's quiet, mundane, or busy, I am praying for you, and I'm so glad you're here. Let's go. Welcome to the Jess Connolly podcast, where we're all about living fully awake, walking in freedom, and having a little fun along the way. Today, I've got a very special guest with me, my daughter, Glory Connolly. While we typically host the author of a book on our book club, Leaders or Learners, we are taking a page out of the actual book we're discussing, Let Them by Mel Robbins, and I'm letting Glo take the mic instead. Consider this my real life application of the book. We're leaning into what we love, letting go of what we can't control, and seeing what happens when we just let people be themselves. Glory and I are diving into what we loved about the book, Let Them, what's still a little tricky for us, and our biggest takeaways as a mother-daughter duo. So if you've read the book or if you're just curious, grab a cup of coffee and settle in. This is going to be a fun one. Gloriana Connolly, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, I'm trying not to laugh. I'm losing it.
It's okay. We laugh a lot on the podcast.
Okay, good.
Because you can giggle.
Okay, because that whole intro, I was just sitting there trying not to laugh. You're very funny.
Oh my gosh. I'm so glad that's on recording.
I've told you you're funny before. It's in our family quote book.
Yeah, you are the family historian and you keep the quotes that you enjoy of our family.
Tiramisu me.
Let's give a moment for Benjamin Connolly and his food puns because he has said 3 recently that have had us in stitches.
Tiramisu me, that's off-putting, and what's the third one?
Oh, he just said it.
I don't think it's in my quote book.
Shoot, it was just this past weekend. Tiramisu me, that's off-putting, and
I remember the setting.
It was some kind of fancier food.
Maybe it wasn't a joke. We were very delirious.
No, it was
dinner.
It was a food fun, and it was hilarious. I'll find out by the end of the episode.
Yeah, we'll ask him.
Okay. So here's the very first question for you.
Okay.
You've always wanted to be on the podcast.
Yeah.
Do you know why you've always wanted to be on the podcast?
I've been begging for forever, and I don't know. I honestly don't know why I've always wanted to be on the podcast. I just kind of always have wanted to. I don't know. I feel like I wanted to talk about some things on the podcast. I just felt like it would be a fun episode. I've also always wanted to have my own podcast.
Yes.
I've been saying I'm going to start my own podcast for forever. I probably will not do it, but I don't know. I think I know, but it's not necessarily why I want to be on this podcast, but why I just want to be on a podcast, but it kind of relates to this, is I just like talking.
Me too, sis.
I mean, I have things to say, but I just as a homeschool kid, I feel like I'm not a homeschool kid. It's just
yeah. It's just you're in a season.
I feel like I talk a lot.
You got a lot to say,
even to myself. I'll just have conversations.
I'm gonna give some live. This is us live doing parental coaching because some of this we've already talked about, but I have a couple reasons why I push the brakes on you being on the podcast.
Okay.
So the number one is, it's not that I want to gatekeep. The problem is I also am a coach.
Yeah.
So as a coach, a lot of people who want to start a podcast, and my number one question is why? What value do you want to add to the listener? Because that really matters to me.
Yeah.
So I have always been who do you want to serve?
Yeah.
Who do you want to serve with your podcast? And you're I don't know. I just want to talk, which is fair,
Yeah.
So that's why I've always paused. It's the other reason why I've always paused about you coming on my podcast. Because I'm I want you to recognize there are people listening. This is their real life. They're taking time. Yeah. They want to be served. So we want to serve them in some way. And we don't want to just entertain them,
Yeah.
But I have reasons now why I think this is a good idea.
Okay.
Right now, you and me.
Okay.
Okay. Well, here's the number one reason. So on the Jess Connolly podcast, I will have my friends and my team members on because they're the people I spend the most time with and it feels most natural. I don't have a co-host. I don't want people to just listen to me all the time. But if we're being honest, the person I spend the most time with outside of your dad is you.
Yeah.
Like, you're my ride or die.
Yeah.
You're my Pookie.
I just kind of invite myself everywhere.
You don't. But in this season, you are homeschooled. So we spend a lot of time together. This whole year, and especially this coming spring, you've been my travel assistant.
Yeah.
So we spend like days on end together. We get along, I would say, very well.
Yeah, better than we used to.
For sure.
Yeah. That was my fault, guys.
No, it was we were storming as a team, you know?
Yeah.
It was hormones and growing up, and I was learning to let them, you know, which we're going to talk about today, but we just genuinely spend time together well.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah. That feels like a natural reason to have you on the podcast, because that's the kind of people I have on the podcast.
Yeah.
People who I would naturally talk to about something.
Yeah.
But then this particular episode, why I was like, okay, this is the one, is backing all the way up. I had heard about the book, Let Them, by Mel Robbins. I had seen it all over the internet. I believe probably by the time the podcast episode comes out, it will be a little less sold out. But like as soon as it launched, it completely sold out everywhere.
Yeah, it did.
It did. We couldn't get it in bookstores. You can't get it on Amazon. I had to get the audiobook. I never read any of her books, but I'd heard about this book and I was like, I wonder, like as an author, how she's going to fill a whole book with this one theory that I had seen like pretty well explained by her in podcasts or reels. And so I was curious. So as an author, it made me curious to get the book. I got the audiobook around the first of the year. I started listening to it during a workout at the gym. I was maybe 10 minutes in when I was like, Glow needs to listen to this book.
Wow.
So that got my wheels turning. And for a variety of reasons, I thought you would like it, which we're going to get into. So then I came to you and said, hey, if you'll read this book, you'll be able to go on my podcast.
She's like the one thing I've been waiting to hear like my whole entire life.
You were like, I'm in.
I know. I was like, I'll read the book.
Now, to be fair, dear listener, you did not finish the book.
I didn't. I really tried.
It's okay. It's all right. It's okay. I finished the book. I listened to the audiobook, and then I got the ebook so that I could take notes.
Okay.
And I took notes for you.
Oh, amazing. I mean, I took notes. I mean, I forgot my notebook at home because...
It's all right.
But I took notes. The first couple chapters I listened to. And then I listened to the rest of the book that I listened to.
Yeah.
I listened to it while I was driving.
Driving me on a speaking trip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, but as some of you know, I mean, I don't know if this is just a me thing or if it's a multiple people thing, but I get very tired when I'm driving and I'm listening to someone talk. And so I tried to listen to the book and then I was like, actually, I need some music or I'm not going to make it. And then I also tried to listen to a podcast and like...
You had to turn that off too.
I had to turn that off too.
Yeah. It's real. Well, that's okay. I got the ebook. I took some notes. And so we're going to dive in. Okay. First of all, I want to say, so on the Jess Connolly podcast, we have what we call the Leaders or Learners book club, which is means about once a month, I will pick a book and I say, hey, let's all read this together. So this is our Leaders or Learners book club book for January. Now, typically we would have the author on for a book, but we couldn't get Mel, which is totally understandable. She's got a busy schedule.
Yeah.
So that's why I decided to have you instead. But I will say, if you don't know this, Glow, one thing I try to do on the Leaders or Learners author episodes is I try not to give away the whole content of the book.
Okay.
Because as an author, I hate when I go on a podcast and someone basically asks me to tell them the whole book. And I'm like, well, the point is like people will change if they actually read the book. But if they listen to the podcast episode and they think they don't have to read the book, then it won't serve them.
Especially this book, I feel, is like...
There's something that happens over the course of it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Jumping right off the bat, I want to actually just read what the Amazon listing says the book is about.
Amazing.
These are the value offers. And then I want us to both do a live take about like, okay, did we feel like that happened? Okay. So this is what Amazon says, the Let Them book will help you do. Stop wasting energy on things you can't control. Stop comparing yourself to other people. Break free from fear and self-doubt. Release the grip of people's expectations. Build the best friendships of your life. Create the love you deserve. Pursue what truly matters to you with confidence. build resilience against everyday stressors and distractions, define your own path to success, joy, and fulfillment. Those are big offers.
Yeah.
Okay, so being respectful, what's your immediate take on that?
I honestly think that even in the few chapters that I got to, I could sense a lot of those kind of taking place.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think she did a very good job describing how to make that happen.
Yeah. I'll say, and I would say this if Mel Robbins was here on the podcast, which I would still love to have her, I'm a kingdom girl. So I'm a Jesus girl. I'm a Bible girl. I see things from a kingdom perspective. Most of the people who listen to this podcast are going to be the same. So I will say there were some parts of the book that I'm like, I do believe that is possible. I would add some kingdom authority to it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like for me, for example, breaking free from fear and self-doubt is most powerful, not when I speak my own mantras or my own truth, but when I speak the truth of the gospel over my life. Yeah. So that's to me going to be some added oomph, but I still find it incredibly helpful. A lot of the principles that she laid out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your take is interesting because when we first talked about the book, when you were like a chapter or two in, you had a little bit of a different take.
I also think I just had to, it was a me problem. And I will say that. Yeah. So I think it was a me problem because I was thinking about certain situations in my life where I felt like I had to implement this theory, but I couldn't.
Yeah.
Just because even yesterday I'm a bridesmaid in my cousin's wedding, and I was at their a luncheon, and we were talking about it. I was like, I'm going.
You're talking about the book?
Yeah, we were talking about it and how I was going on the podcast.
She's an influencer, folks.
And I was talking about how I genuinely just had to shift my mindset on it because I kept thinking of certain situations where I had to implement the theory where it wouldn't work.
So you had to maybe say what if it did work?
No, I had to think about different situations.
Because some it just might not.
It just might not.
Okay.
But I feel like it works in a lot of situations. I was just thinking about two in particular that have been constant in my life for the past year that I was like, oh, I need to implement these theories in this. This will help it basically resolve for me.
Yeah.
And then I was like, any way that I thought about it, I was like, it does not work.
Yeah.
In that way. And I was like, oh, this is so interesting. Why does it not work? Because I know people love this book so much and it was such a good book. But I was like, why isn't it working? And so I had to kind of shift my mindset on how I thought about it and who I was and what I was doing it with.
That really tracks. Okay, so just to clarify, make sure I'm saying this in the way you want to say it, but you can't toss a theory if it doesn't work in every scenario.
Yes.
You can't toss a theory if it has some caveats.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Wise. Do you know what that sounds like to me? That sounds like wisdom.
Thanks.
Okay. What is the let them theory? I'm going to say it in my words. You say if you hear it someone else.
Okay.
So I would say the let them theory, which is really, if you read the whole book, really what Mel Robbins is saying is let them, comma, and let me.
Yes.
So she would say let them, stop trying to control what you can't control. And then let me take responsibility for what you can take responsibility for.
Yeah.
So I just want to pause here and say why it was immediately interesting to me is a lot of my work in the last few years for and with Christian women, noticing I've just become very curious about how specifically Christian women are kind of raised and taught to take responsibility for things that God did not ask us to take responsibility for.
Yeah.
And I've been noticing how that makes us tired, how it makes us fearful, how it keeps us from acknowledging where we do have authority, where we do have responsibility. But I just feel really tender, and I feel almost, I've said this on the podcast before, I've said it speaking places, I say it to your dad a lot. I just feel almost allergic now to any language that puts burden and obligation on people where God would not put it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm really curious about that. Also, another friend, I'm going to quote my friend Connie Wood, who is an incredible pastor in the area. And she's just a dear friend of mine. she was also reading the book, and she texted me and she said, don't you think like Jesus was the ultimate let them, let me person?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I do. I do think like a lot of what Mel is sharing in the book, I think is like a kingdom principle.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
This idea that you cannot control other people, but like you can pay attention to what you can do.
Yeah.
Which again sounds so simple, but when you listen to the book and when you listen to every scenario wherein we are so used to doing this,
mm-hmm.
you just start to see like, wow, this theory really has legs in our life.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So I asked you if I could share this story and you said yes.
Yeah.
Again, helpful disclaimer for anyone, you're really obsessed. Pause. You're really obsessed with the effects of like internet kids, family vlogging kids.
Yes.
It's really important to you.
It's really important to me.
You really feel bad for kids who are like, their parents are like YouTubers, their whole life is on display. You're really interested in it.
Yeah.
Isn't it so interesting that like as much justice as you feel for those kids, that's like essentially what you want to be?
No, it's not.
You're like, let's be famous, all of us together.
I think that honestly, and I think when I started getting so interested into this, I was like, I wonder what people think about me in this situation. And I think that's why I
like,
sparked.
Yes, you worry that people are worried for you.
Yes, I do. I really do, guys. I'm fine.
She is begging to be on the internet. I mean, not really. I'm just kidding. But like, you guys do often ask for me to tag you on Instagram.
Yes, we do.
That's like a big thing.
And she won't do it.
I did it one time for one of our kids for
their birthday. And it was the best moment for all of us.
It wasn't you?
I think it was Benja.
I can't remember which
I think
one
you did it for both of us.
I think I did do it for Benjamin's birthday. You're right.
Yeah.
But I don't tag my kids on social media because they want to be tagged. So all that being said, I was telling that backstory to say, you are not being exploited in this episode. I've asked your permission times 10 for everything.
Yeah,
I'm the one pumping the brakes here.
Yes.
Okay. But I did ask you if I could tell this story because this was another, to me, indicator of like, wow, we both need this book. And this is the one that I think most listeners will resonate with.
Okay.
So this Christmas Eve, we have had a hard year. It's been a hard year for our family. Everybody who listens to the podcast knows that. When you have had a hard year, the holidays are especially difficult, right? So we're all prepping for it. Guess what? We're talking about our feelings. We're all in therapy. We're talking about how we're going to get through the holidays.
Yeah.
We're praying. Like we're doing our business.
Yes.
But it's still hard.
Yeah.
So Christmas Eve, we are a ball of grief and feelings. And we are sitting down to do our Christmas Eve pre-Christmas present.
It starts before then.
It was ramping up before then. You were in a place.
I had asked at our Christmas Eve service.
What had you asked at our Christmas Eve service?
I had asked, I'd come up to Mom, and I had kind of waited until like I had thought she wasn't that busy. But obviously, I can never really know with those things.
My favorite thing about you is that you know that I'm never too busy for you.
Oh.
So
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like you came up to me yesterday while the microphone was in my hand. I was getting ready to go lead response time and you texted me.
No,
Yes, the microphone was in my hand.
You were sitting in your hand?
The microphone was in my hand. I was like watching for the cue from the band to go up and get on stage.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay. I love that you know that you always have access to me. Yeah. So you had come up to me at the Christmas Eve service and said,
I had said, hey, I actually can't remember what I said. Do you remember?
You asked me just something about the logistics of opening Christmas presents.
Oh, I did.
You were like
opening.
Can we make a plan for that? Oh, no, you said, can I rearrange all the presents under the tree?
I did.
Yes.
Oh, my God.
At the Christmas Eve service, I literally think we've just gotten done singing Silent Night. We've blown out the candles. You walk up to me and you're like, hey, by the way, can I rearrange all the presents under the tree tonight? It was
bothering me.
Because they were bothering you. And I said, I think I said something along the lines of like, sure, sweetie, because I've got 200 people in the room that I also need a pastor right now. And my mind isn't really on the Christmas Eve presents. But then I wasn't being dismissive. I just was like, sure, let them.
Yeah.
I get home and you have, in fact, rearranged all the presents under the tree. But I had not had the forethought to think, well, number one,
She's actually going to do it.
I liked aesthetically how they looked.
Yeah.
I had placed them where they were on purpose. Number two, a lot of them I had placed in clumps and not labeled. So I had not put people's names on them, but I had put them in clumps. So I knew this whole clump is Glory. This whole clump is Benjamin.
Yeah.
And I hadn't explained that to you. So when you rearranged them the way you thought was best, because you were trying to help.
I was really trying to help.
I didn't know whose gifts were for who. So that being said, the tension is rising.
Yes.
So we are opening we do a Christmas Eve gift. We open the Christmas jammies and you're in an emotional place. And I can tell. Mm-hmm. And at some point you said something about can we just talk about the plan for tomorrow? And Dad, your dad, my husband, he is not like us. The book let them would not necessarily hit for him in the same way it hit for us. But you and I are women who struggle with releasing control. And you got emotional and you started crying.
I did.
And you basically what flew out of your mouth was it was the monologue that I believe a lot of moms across America are doing around Christmas time. You just didn't know it because moms typically don't do it in front of their kids.
Yeah.
But you essentially were like, I get really stressed out when there's Christmas present paper all over the floor and there's no plan and it feels chaotic and I don't want to live like this anymore. But yours was a little out of place because you're not the mom.
Yeah.
And anyhow, I sat there and
I was just super stressed out for the coming days because
there was a lot going on.
There was a lot going on.
There was a lot of emotions. And it was the holidays. And it was it wasn't about that.
Yeah.
But in that moment, your mind wanted, I believe, to control what you could control. Mm-hmm. You wanted to steward and take care of what you could steward.
Yeah.
And anyways, I could tell that your dad was confused because it's not the way he feels. But I sat back and I was like, oh, Lord, I've made her in my image. I just thought, this Pookie, she just struggles in the exact same way that I do.
It was also, I remember Christmas Eve, y'all got home, and before y'all could, take a beat, I walked up to every single one of you, and I said, pick a number. Literally just, I had a
You really wanted us to open the gifts in an order.
Yeah.
That was important to you.
Because there's always fighting about who's going to open gifts when.
So you were thinking ahead.
I was.
But right, we hadn't eaten. We were tired. I was still wearing 4-inch heels from Christmas Eve service.
We were going on a cruise on December 26th, and I think some of us still hadn't packed.
I had not packed.
Yeah.
It was me. It's me. Hi.
I had been packed for
You had been packed for days. Yeah. I hadn't packed because I was trying to get through Christmas and track presents and wrap presents and all the things. Anyway, so I just thought, wow, she really struggles with this in the same way that I do, which I've known, but we struggle with it in different ways. So that being said, again, I've asked you for permission, but I'd like to share the two different ways that you and I struggle with letting them.
Yeah.
And what our individual issues are here. Yeah. Because they're different. Mm-hmm. Mine is 110% I struggle with control and over responsibility. Mm-hmm. I think I'm responsible for everybody else. I think if someone trips and falls 5 miles away and I know them, somehow it's my fault. Yeah. And I should have warned them. I should have fixed it. And they're waiting on me to come over and bring them flowers, even though they just tripped.
Yeah.
Yours is more I'm going to say to my words and you tell me if this sounds right.
Okay.
I'm summarizing what you've said to me in the past.
Yeah.
But maybe controlling your emotions and your reactions to what other people do, good, bad, hurtful, etc. But it can kind of consume you, how you feel about it.
Yes.
Is that how you would say it?
Yeah.
So mine is overcoming over responsibility with people. Yours is maybe overcoming frustration with people. Mm-hmm. This is where we both struggle. So this is a direct quote from Let Them by Mel Robbins. Okay. She says, when you say let them, you stop trying to control what someone else is doing. When you say, let me, you take responsibility for how you respond to it, which is not always obvious.
I wrote this exact quote down.
You did? Mm-hmm. Well, what I wrote in my notes is, I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but this is what I've been telling you for years. I think I've said that exact line to you for years. You have to let people be who they are, not control what they're doing. Mm-hmm. And you have to say, let me, like, how do I want to respond to this?
Yeah.
Because that's my responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what I also wrote in my notes, my hands are in the air, I'm humbled, is I need to take my own advice.
Yes.
I can understand how it would be hard for you to hear that message from me and see me live a different way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think also what this reminds me of is a very popular quote in the Connolly household that you say a lot, which this is directed at me, not you.
I have no idea what it is.
Is when you say, I'm trying to remember the wording correctly, but it's like when you say, I can't police them if I'm having to police you.
Yes.
It's a very popular quote because no matter what is happening in the Connolly household, if someone does something to affect, and it's me in particular that this is like always being said to, which I actually did take a hint already. But no matter if someone does says something mean, that hits me, like no matter what happens, it's like always I'm like 10 times back.
Yeah.
Getting back. And then it's always, Glory, I can't police them if I'm having to police you.
Yeah. I want to just clarify because you said if somebody hits me.
Oh,
you
no,
mean like
it's
if
like,
your little brother kicks you on the couch.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry. My parents.
If someone hit you, I would stand
after
in front
I
of
said it, I was like, oh.
Yeah, no. I just wanted to clarify.
Right.
We're talking about normal sibling rivalry.
Yeah. Like,
all that being said, yeah, it is. But let me affirm you in this, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Which I hope you have heard me say this before, not just on the podcast.
Yeah.
I love that you are so justice-minded.
Yes.
I love that about you.
Yes.
You are very justice-minded. Your dad firmly believes you should be a lawyer.
Yes, he does.
I do too. I mean, I don't think you should. I think you could, and you'd be a great one. But you really want justice. So yeah, just to like lay out the scenario, because moms everywhere will relate. But this is a transferable principle to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody does something wrong, then I should be focusing on the person who did something wrong.
Yes.
But I end up focusing on you.
Because I'm doing something 10 times worse.
Because you get so upset about what they're doing.
Yes. And sometimes,
so then you become the problem. So then I'm like, Gloriana, I don't want to deal with you right now. I actually want to be dealing with the problem. But because your reaction to somebody else's problem was so big, now I have to address it because that's now affecting other people. Mm-hmm. But this is a transferable principle to, I think, a lot of people listening because this is what we do. Mm-hmm. We then like become the problem instead of saying, okay, let them. Yeah. Let them. And now let me figure out like what is my responsibility here or how I could affect change here or if I can. This is something that was really helpful for me in the book. Okay, I have an important caveat about the book that I need to bring out right now. Mel Robbins makes this very clear in the book. This book is actually not about parenting. Yeah. It's about dealing with other people who are your peers. Yeah. So for you, this is not for me about like, oh, I just need to let my kids, like, let them, no big deal. And she is actually very clear to say like, hey, if anybody, actually, I almost wrote down this quote, but you just would have been like, I know. There's a quote near the back of the book that basically says like, hey, FYI, if your parents are paying for any part of your life, if they are funding any part of your life, they get to speak into it. Really? Yes. Wow. Do you want me to find a quote? Yeah. I mean, that sounds right. But I've never, other than you guys, I've never heard anyone say that to anyone. What do you mean? Well, I think it's, other than maybe in our family, I've never heard a parent say to their child, I'm paying for your gas, I'm paying for your school, like, I'm paying for your phone, like, I get to speak in to those aspects of your life. Which, I don't know if I've, like, expressed it that much, but I do firmly believe, like, that's true. Well, I mean, number one, this is my deal. Like, I'm like, I don't want it to be that I'm paying for your life, so now I get to speak into it. You know this about me. I just want you to want me to speak into your life. Yeah. I want you to trust me. Mm-hmm. I want you to, like, let me lead you because God's placed me as your mom. Yeah. But she says it so explicitly because I think because there will probably be adult children reading the book who are like, yeah, my parents should let me. And she's like, hey, really? If they're paying for your stuff, that's real. They get to speak into it. Okay, I'm going to read the quote for you. Okay, read the quote. Because I bet I know where it is. That chapter about parents and teens. No, it's not. What? No, I downloaded the bonus chapter about parents and teens. This chapter is basically, it's chapter 17, how to provide support in the right way. Here's what Mel Robbins says. She says it very directly. Mm-hmm. You don't get to have someone else fund your life and then have an attitude when they have an opinion about how you're using their money. Having your parents pay for your therapy and then refusing to let them talk to your therapist is a form of gaslighting. I am reading a direct quote. If you are sick of your parents' opinion about what you should be doing, then start paying your own bills. As long as you are financially tied to someone else, you can say, let them all you want, but their money is buying access to your life, whether you like it or not. If you want independence, prove it and start being financially independent for real. And let's be honest, the real reason why your parents' opinions frustrate you so much is because you need their money and you know it. You're not mad at them. You're mad at yourself for not being financially independent. So this is about like adult kids, you know?
Wow.
So again, this is not the way I would say it to you. I hope you've never heard me explicitly say, well, I pay for you, so you got to do whatever. Like, that's not the way I talk to you. But for example, I would say, I purchased your car and I paid for your gas.
Yeah.
So if I need you to run an errand, that is only the fair thing to ask
Which
for.
I'm always down to.
You're like, please, let me go to Whole Foods.
Yeah.
You know? But I've said this to you. I've said it to other people publicly about you. My hope in parenting you specifically as a girl has always been that you would trust me.
Yeah.
That I wouldn't have to say like, hey, can I give you my advice? That you would say like, hey, can I have your advice about this?
Yeah.
And I will say like that has been the biggest shift for us in the last few years is that you will actually come to me and say, hey, can I ask you about this? Even if it's something small, it always means a lot to me.
Yeah.
Like even if you're like, hey, can you help me figure out my day for tomorrow?
Yeah.
I feel so loved by that. But also sometimes I do now have to come to you as a mom and say, hey, babe, can I speak into this?
Yeah.
And you will let me.
Yeah.
Which is a blessing.
Yeah. I'm what scientists like to call stubborn. So it's not that
great podcast guest.
It's not that I don't want her to speak into my life, especially. It's just that I can't comprehend yet when I need it. So,
but you are learning.
Yes.
Yeah.
So obviously, I don't get offended when you come to me and tell me what you think I should do in a scenario, because I probably need that wisdom, I guess, but I didn't know how to ask for it yet, or I didn't know I needed it.
Yeah. I'm what scientists call stubborn was wild. You know how they make like cute little podcast graphic quotes like with the guest and like a quote over their face? That's what I want to make of you.
I can't wait.
I love you. You're so cute. Anyways, the book is not about parenting. There is an extra chapter you can download about parenting, which you better believe I downloaded. There is also an extra chapter you can download for bosses, which I also downloaded.
Wow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So the part that I don't think you've gotten to in the book, but I want to just give you the Cliff Notes version, but I do want you to listen to.
Yeah.
And that I want to share for other people is there's actually a lot of rich information about friendship. Many chapters on friendship.
I think they had just touched the iceberg.
I think so too. When I was listening to it with you, you had just gotten to friendship. So I'm going to just give you the Cliff Notes version. Okay. What Mel Robbins says that the 3 pillars of friendship are, like the things that make friendship happen in our lives after childhood, when you're like thrust together with people all the time, which I would say tracks for you because now you're homeschooling. So you're not thrust together with normal people all the time. We don't have like a vibrant youth group at our church. You don't have a crew of people that you've grown up with. And you have a lot of cousins. Yeah. Which is nice. But Mel says proximity. So that means like being close to them. Timing, meaning like you're in a similar stage of life to them or you're experiencing the same things as them. Yeah. And energy, like how much energy are you willing to put in? Wow. So I would say in this season, stop me if I'm saying anything you don't want to. Like obviously you've struggled with proximity because you're homeschooled. And I know that there are amazing people who are like, hey, you're homeschooled. That's great. You can be in great community. You can experience more community. It's been just a little bit different for you. Yeah. And that's okay. I would say, can I speak into this for you? Sure. And you can tell me if I'm wrong. Yeah. I think timing has been different for you because it's been such a hard year. Yeah. And there are going to be teenagers who understand that. And there are going to be friends who don't understand that. And I also think what I've like had to learn with is with growing up in the church and growing up when we were planning a church. Yeah. I said this in a job interview the other day because the job that I applied for was it had more adults than teenagers. And I didn't intentionally do that. It just kind of happened. But they were like, how do you think you'll be a good fit for this? And I said, well,
growing up, I had a lot of 20-year-olds and college kids were my friends.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's also so interesting with how my friendships are now.
Yeah.
It's just because I'm more used to having adults as friends.
I agree. Yeah. And that's interesting. And then I'd also say the timing piece of like the pastor's kid, you know, parents who write books.
Yeah.
And you've got people coming up to you when we go out to eat at dinner, you know.
Oh my God, your Glory.
Yeah, it's very normal for somebody to come up to you at the grocery store and say like, oh, are you Glory? You know, that's also a timing piece that there's not many other kids in your realm that can relate to, you know?
Yeah.
But then the last pillar is energy, which means like how much are you willing to put into it?
Yeah.
Which is difficult because that means you have to put in a lot of energy because you don't have a lot of proximity or timing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to toot my own horn, but today.
Toot, sis.
Today I have a friend and she has been wanting to go to a cycling class for forever. We've been talking about it forever. And if you know me, I don't like to work out. And I know
said, if you know me.
And I like to be in my bed 24/7. If I can sleep in until 1, it's the best thing ever.
She can't.
And so
you're doing it to get out of your comfort zone.
Yeah. She was like, can we do this on Monday? And I was like, sure. I was like, yeah. It'll be good for me.
I'm really proud. I think it's a really big deal. You should toot your own horn. That's amazing. You're putting it in. You're putting in the work.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I want to tell you one other Spark Notes about the book. Okay. Spark Notes still what they say? Cliff Notes. Spark Notes? Is that a thing?
Spark Notes is it's like a website.
I didn't make it up. Okay.
Yeah.
Here's the other thing I want to tell you about the book. She does have an entire section on, a lot of the book is like, you can't make people change. You can't make people change until they're ready to change. You can't change people. You got to let them.
Yeah.
But she does say, but how do you get people to change? And there are 3 main things she says.
Okay.
I want to hear your live thoughts.
Okay.
Number 1, essentially she says, I'm going to put it in my language, but live your own vibrant life. Okay. When you live, for example, she uses the example of hey, if you want your spouse to exercise, you just have to exercise. And that they'll see the change in you so much that they might want to exercise. Wow. So she would say you got to just do what you want other people to do.
Wow.
Number 2, she uses the ABC method, which A is apologize and ask questions.
Okay.
So you're apologizing for probably by this point you've put pressure on somebody.
Yeah, to do something they don't want to do.
And so then you're asking questions to say why don't you want to do it?
Yeah.
Then B would be back off and observe their behavior.
Okay.
C would be celebrate their progress.
Okay.
So any small wins.
Oh, wow.
I think the ABC method sounds really smart.
Yeah.
Then she has another tool that I am going to start using in our house. Sorry, spoiler alert. It's asking 5 whys.
Okay.
So let me give you an example. If I said to you, I'm going to make up a fictional idea. If I was oh my gosh, I really want Benjamin to start working out. Benjamin's our son. Benjamin doesn't count because you shouldn't do this with kids, right?
Yeah.
But let's say...
Also, he already does work out.
That's why I said it was a fictional one, because he loves working out. But if I said that to you, then so the first why would be why? You would say that to me. And I would say, well, because I just think he'll feel better.
Yeah.
And then you would say, why? And then I would say, well, because I love him and I want him to feel better. And then you'd say, why? A third time. And I'd say, because I'm really worried about him. I'm worried that he doesn't have enough energy and I'm worried that he's not going to take care of himself. Then you say, why? 2 more times. You say it 5 times.
Okay.
And essentially you get what Mel says is you get to a really core of why you want someone to change. Okay. And then you have a more pure idea about that.
Yeah.
I think that's an interesting method.
That is an interesting method. I like the why theory.
I like the why theory. So that's how she says to get people to change. Okay. Number 1, just do your own thing. Live your own vibrant life.
Yeah.
Does that sound familiar?
Yeah.
Okay. Great. 2,
the only thing I hear in our house.
2, ABC, apologize and ask questions, back off, observe, celebrate progress.
Okay.
C, use the 5 whys. So you and I are going to test out this theory over the coming months. We'll come back. Okay. Now, I gave you an assignment before this podcast episode. You did not complete it. But it's okay.
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 I was like, another assignment?
You were like, I forgot another one.
I forgot?
But it's okay because I'm going to let you do it live. Okay. So the assignment that I gave Gloriana is I said, I'm going to give you 3 things I think you could work on using the theories of this book.
Okay.
And then I said, Gloria, I want you to give me 3 things I could work on.
The truth is, I just love my mom so much.
Oh my gosh.
She's perfect as she is. And I just couldn't think of anything she needed
she's
to
trying
work
to come
on.
back on the podcast so intentionally. And it's working, you know. But I even said, go to Dad.
She said, go to Dad.
I said, go to Dad. Ask Dad what I should do better, you know. Anyways, so I came up with my own 3 things.
Okay.
I want you to say if these are the right 3 things, and you can live give me feedback.
Okay.
Do you want me to do yours first or mine first?
You know what? Do my first.
Okay, you're not going to be surprised by any of them.
I'm probably not.
They're all things I've said to you.
Yeah.
But now I'm saying on a recording, so you got to do them. Okay? Number 1, let people be human.
Okay.
And by this, I don't have a concise way to say this, but I think something that is a struggle for you is that sometimes I think people are just being human.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're being awkward or they don't know what to say. Or they're having you immediately assign a negative feeling towards them.
Yeah.
You're like, they're being awful. They're being awful. They're being mean.
Yeah.
But I think they're just being human.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Let's use me as an example. In the Christmas Eve service ceremony, I think when you got upset on Christmas Eve at the house, you were like, nobody cares about me. I think you actually said something like that.
I did say that.
And I was like, sis, I would die for you.
Sis what?
I care about you so much. Mm-hmm. All I do is take care of you. I love you so much. Mm-hmm. Don't take it so far. I was just confused about what was happening. Mm-hmm. So I would say, number 1, let people be human. Is that something you think you would be willing to work on?
Yeah.
Number 2, this one you're not going to like. Let people change slowly.
If you could see the face I'm making right now, you guys would be.
Because people do change slowly.
Yeah.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
Let people change slowly.
Mm-hmm.
Number 3, don't wait on other people for you to live fully awake. And by that, I mean a boyfriend. And by that, I mean, if you're listening to this and you have a teenage son and he loves God and he's honorable and you want to do a long distance setup with me and you, send me a DM.
Okay,
That's
I
your dream.
think we should preface what I've been saying about this boyfriend situation.
Yeah.
Because, okay, I admit I have been really annoying about it.
I wouldn't say annoying. I think they're pretty cute about it.
I say every day. When will this podcast air? Do you know?
Next week.
Oh, okay, amazing. I say
you want one by Valentine's Day.
I want one by Valentine's Day. And I want to preface and say I don't know how to phrase this, but what I've been saying is I have one friend my age. I love her. Her name's SG.
Yeah.
We hang out as much as we can, but it's SG. One friend my age. And oh my God, she's going to die that she just got a shout out on the podcast.
Oh my gosh.
She's like my mom's biggest fan. But I have one friend named SG.
I'm a big fan of SG.
Yeah. My only friend my age. And the rest are friends that are my mom's age. Like my Aunt Caroline, who's 29. And also
basically
single.
all my coworkers who are your friends.
Liz, I love Liz. We talk all the time. Katie, love Katie. So it's just I feel like if I had more friends that were my age, and I'm not a difficult person to get along with. I mean, it really depends on who you are. Sorry, this is actually getting worse as I talk.
Live therapy. Okay, I just want to pause and say, Pookie wants a Pookie. You know what I'm saying? She wants a boyfriend. Mm-hmm. And I appreciate that you trust me enough to confess that to me. And, now the whole internet.
Yeah.
But I keep telling you, I just want you to live your whole vibrant life. You don't need a boyfriend.
Yeah.
To have fun. You actually need to learn to have fun, to know your identity, to know your worth. But mm-hmm. I get that you have a need to hang out with other people your age. And that is something I've been praying about for a long time. And that we are going to figure it out.
So I think with that, and that we've been praying about it for so long, and it just hasn't happened. I've moved to it would be nice to have a boyfriend.
Sure. And I think it's mostly a cute conversation for you. Not that you don't really want a boyfriend. You do.
I do, but
I want you to live fully awake.
Yeah.
With or without a boyfriend.
Amazing.
I want you to live fully awake with or without a friend, because I actually think that's how you make the best friends, because you know your worth, you know your identity.
Yeah.
And in this way, I think you not being in a traditional high school is really serving you,
Okay.
because you have the time and the space to explore what's interesting to you, to work on your goals, to live a whole vibrant life for a variety of reasons.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
My hope for you is definitely this coming semester that I say this to you all the time, that you'll say like, okay, if I had this huge privilege of like, I don't actually have to go to a school building.
Yeah.
I have parents who give me a ton of freedom and a ton of authority.
Yeah.
You know, what would I do?
Yeah.
Like what kind of fun life at 16, 17 would I build?
Mm-hmm.
And I think we're going to see that happen.
Yeah.
In Jesus' name. Okay, here are my 3.
Okay.
Number 1, I have been working on this for a long time, but I need to continue to work on it. Let other people have their own feelings.
I think you're pretty good about that, but also I could understand why you would be like, I need to work on it.
I was not great about it. I would say 10 years ago, I did not let anyone have feelings.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted everyone to be happy. And if you had a feeling around me, I was like, let's make that a new feeling. Let's make it a happy feeling. 5 years ago, I really wrestled with it. I would say grief, your dad's mental health crisis really helped me. I would say you working on your own mental health has like really helped me, but it's still something I want to get better at.
Yeah. And I think we kind of lost it for a bit, if I'm being honest, during like the grief of this past year, but you've been really good about it recently.
You mean lost it like I was doing a bad job at this?
Just a little bit.
Yeah, that's real. Yeah. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. It honestly helped process a lot of like my own grief and like therapy and stuff.
Because I couldn't do it with you? You can be honest. I don't know what you're trying to say, but I want to hear it.
Just like a little bit.
Yeah.
I think of also just like how hard this year was.
Yeah.
I felt like, honestly, I felt like everyone else in my life was like moving and I was like stuck standing still.
Yeah.
And so I feel like I had to like process a lot of that in therapy.
Yeah. I will also say there was something about us being in, all of us, in so much loss and pain. And I know you know this.
Yeah.
It was difficult for me as a mom to be there for you and be there for my own pain.
Yeah.
I never wanted you to be my support person. And I tried really hard, like not to cry around you, not to feel around you.
You really did.
Not because I didn't want you to see me emote. I wanted you to know I had feelings.
Yeah.
But I did not want to be like collapsing in your lap.
Yeah.
Like, help me, you know? And I didn't want you to feel unsafe. And because of that, I think you didn't know what a hard time I was going through. Yeah. You know?
Yeah.
It's just difficult. Like, I wanted you to see me feel, I wanted you to know I was having a hard time. But yeah, we made it through.
We made it.
Okay. I'm working on letting people feel.
Okay.
Here's my really hard one.
Okay.
I might cry.
Oh, don't do that, please.
Okay. You got to let me feel, Glow. Letting other people fail.
Oh.
Letting other people fail is very difficult for me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Why? Tell us.
I think the coach in me like sees potential in people. I think this is a grief for you, for real. Like, I'm like, I can see a 10-year plan for you that's so vibrant.
Yeah.
But not just for you, but for everybody I know.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I don't just see it, I care.
Yeah.
I want to see everybody win.
Yeah.
I want to see your dad win. I want to see every single one of your siblings win. I want to see every woman I know win. I will get so obsessed with other people winning that like I don't let them just make really big mistakes or fail.
I feel that.
So I'm going to work on that.
Yeah, you should.
Okay. Yeah, you should. Then my last one is this. Letting other people have their own opinion of me.
Oh.
Yeah. I think that I'm not somebody who gets like locked down by other people's opinions. I couldn't do the work I do and do that. And I will say, and anyone who creates content online, anybody who writes books, anybody who pastors, I just happen to do all 3.
Yeah.
Anybody who does any of those things, you cannot get crippled by other people's opinions of you and like still do your job.
Yeah.
That being said, if I'm very transparent, a lot of my energy goes into trying to say the right things so people don't have a bad opinion of me. Trying to say what people want to hear rather than trying to say what I'm supposed to say.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And, you know, sometimes that's loving to say like, hey, I want to love you well. I don't want to distract you. I don't want to be a problem. I don't want to be a pain point. And also, like, sometimes I think I can spend a little bit too much energy,
Yeah.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to give you a real live example, okay? Are you ready?
Yeah.
This is vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
Today's the inauguration. For weeks, I have wanted to post something on social media about, like, hey, here are some, like, ways to pray through the inauguration.
Yeah.
I've wanted to, like, love people on both sides who are really excited and really sad.
Yeah.
But I struggled with my words because I didn't want, I've shared on the podcast that, like, I'm never going to share my political feelings online.
Yeah.
I don't believe it's healthy for me to do as a pastor. I think you know how I feel about issues.
Yeah.
You don't know how I feel about, like, parties.
No.
Which, like, spoiler alert, I've basically said on the podcast, like, I just don't think any party is, like, all the way there from a kingdom principle. I think there's good and bad about both. I think there's really good and really bad about both.
Yeah.
But all that being said, I couldn't come up with the words to post today because I, like, don't have it.
Yeah.
I wish I was saying, like, but I did anyways, but, like, I'm not going to.
Yeah.
Because I got to protect my peace and I know I don't have the words yet.
Yeah.
You know? And, like, I don't have to say something about everything. There are other people putting out great content.
Yeah.
You know?
100%.
Okay, anyways. That's what I'm working on.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you'd add about you want me to work on?
I think, like, this is so frustrating because I had such a really good one that I was like, oh man, this is so good. And then I lost it. But also, I feel like piggybacking on the, I think it was a second one about other people's opinions.
Yeah.
Like, I would just, like, affirm that.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I didn't really, like, ever know what people thought of you.
What do you mean?
I mean, well, obviously this might get cut out. So, but I remember a couple months ago when we found, like, a page that had, like, some nasty things said about you. I just had never, like, thought of, like, how, like, people thought of you before.
Yeah.
Because I think I was always just so, like, oh, I grew up knowing who you were.
Yeah.
So I never thought about it.
Yeah.
And honestly, on that same page, they said things about me, but it was like, they weren't being mean. They were just like,
they weren't being mean to you.
They were being extra mean to you and bringing me into it.
Yeah.
And so I just remember, like, finding that page. And then I think I just remember you being so hurt about it, which obviously, like, if someone started a page about me talking about how I was, like, a horrible person, honestly, I would probably ball up and cry for years.
Yeah.
So I think you did a great job with that. I just, like, I like, just want to piggyback off of, like, yeah, just, like, letting people have their opinions on you and, like, not letting it get to you.
Well, I don't know if you remember, but first of all, someone sent me that page. So I didn't go looking for it.
Okay.
Someone sent me that page and said, like, hey, I don't know if you've seen this. There are these things being said about you.
Yeah, I remember
and I will say it was at such a low time in our life.
Yeah, that's what I also wanted to, like, point out is just, like, I think you did such a great job with that. It was at such a low point that, like, I understand, like, why.
Yeah.
Well, it cut as deep as it did.
Now that you brought it up, I'll tell you. I mean, I haven't shared this publicly. I haven't really even said this out loud.
Yeah.
But the next week is when I pulled my podcast for the next couple months.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
I had already pretty planned to do that.
Yeah, and that's what you needed.
I remember saying to my team, like, you know, I should be in a season where, like, words like that don't wreck me. And people just have no idea what we're going through. Like, they would, I hope, I actually do. I know that people would be terrible no matter what you're going through. But I just thought, like, I can't handle this, you know? But I will also say it helped that I was in such a hard season that I was like, well, this is not the hardest thing in my life. Something strangers are saying about me. But the one thing I wanted to capture about that is, do you remember what happened after I told you about it?
I wanted to go comment on it.
Well, yes, but do you remember what I said to you, like, I think a couple hours later or the next day?
I know.
I apologize for telling you about it.
Yeah, you did. I remember that.
I felt awful
it was like
for
30
telling you
later.
about it. I felt like I should not have to put that on you guys. You shouldn't know the awful things people say about your parents.
I mean,
just because of their jobs.
Yeah.
You've had to experience way too much of that in the church.
Yeah.
And
our church is great.
Our church is incredible.
People don't I mean, there are a few instances where it's like someone will come up to me and ask me about a time in our church, and I was like, this really only happened once. And I was like, I was 12. I have no clue what happened.
Yeah. Meaning like a handful of people left. Yeah. But like, I want to work on that. And also, I wish I hadn't told you about that.
Also, I just want to point out, I started journaling right as, again, no one really knows this, but journaling has I mean, you know it, but journaling has been something that everyone tells me like I should do, but it's so hard for me. Yeah. Just with things that I'm having to work through in therapy that I was like, I will never journal again. I'd said it multiple times, so everyone's like, you need to journal. Yeah. And so I started journaling again right around when everything was happening, just because I wasn't having therapy enough. I mean, I was having it every 2 weeks, but still I was like, I need it every day. That's so much money. And so obviously that's not going to happen. And I didn't, obviously other than our family, I didn't really have anyone to talk to about what was happening. Yeah. And so I started journaling. And I remember that day that we found that page and I just wrote, I was like, and I remember I was like, I could not imagine doing the work that you're doing during our season. I was like, I remember saying I could not imagine. I was just even during our season, I was like, I can't believe she's still working. Which
me either. I couldn't either.
Which was why I was so happy. Other than I remember you telling me about a guest that you were probably gonna have on your podcast that I was really excited because I love that person. But other than that, I was like, oh, she did need to cancel her podcast for a little bit and not work with social media and stuff for just a little bit.
Yeah. And just for anybody listening who hasn't listened to any past episodes, if we sound like we're being coy and silly, we're not. It was a really hard year. Yeah. And a lot of that our family has been really public about, starting with your dad's mental health crisis, which he chose to be public about. Yeah. And then moving into the loss of my stepdad, your poppy, just in a really traumatic and shocking way. And then we had some private family pain that we won't share publicly, but that we've been having to work through. So, yeah. Anyways, I'm proud of you, Pookie. I love you. I can't wait to keep letting them. Let them and let me. And then I want to end with this. Okay. There's no way I'm not having you back on the podcast.
Okay, good, because we're an hour and 4 minutes in, and I already am there are 1,000 more things I want to
You're
talk
an excellent
about.
You're an excellent guest. I stand corrected. I think the internet's going to agree. I think we're going to have to make this a regular occurrence. Okay, and I'm back with a story loop of, I think I remembered Benjamin's joke.
Oh my God.
His third food pun. So the first was tiramisumi.
Tiramisumi.
That's off-putting. Pudding. Yeah. It was especially funny because we had ordered some kind of pudding. Yeah. And then I think the third one was, don't mind if I fondue.
That's what it was. Because we had ordered fondue. We had ordered cheese fondue.
Yeah. Anyways, he's so funny. I love you. I'm proud of you.
I love you too.
You're a good egg.
Guys, go follow me on Instagram.
Absolutely not. I will not be sharing her internet tag. Sorry, fame is a trauma. I'll wait till you can handle it. Yeah. We love you and bless you. Let us know if you listen to the book, if you read the book. Leaders are learners. I do believe it'll serve you in some way, shape, and form.
You guys should read the book.
Okay, let's go. Peace.
Peace. Bye.
Friends, I'm so grateful you listened to today's episode. Thanks for spending time with me. It would mean the world to me to connect with you. So you can send me a DM on Instagram at Jess A. Connolly or head to my website, jessconnolly.com, for more ways to connect. If you have a minute to subscribe and leave a review of the podcast wherever you listen, it would massively help us reach more people with the good news that they can live fully awake. Let's go.